Hi, everyone in the audience. A lot of familiar names. If you are tuning in for the first time, and I happen to be an unfamiliar face, I'm Abby. I'm the Executive Director of the Vermont Ski and Snowboard Museum. Thank you for joining us tonight for the long-awaited part 2 of our conversation with John Caldwell. We encourage our viewers to support the Red Bench Speaker Series by making a donation. As a nonprofit, your support is what keeps us going. And as always, your donation in increments of $10 earns you a raffle entry for a pair of Darn Tough socks. I will draw the winners tomorrow, so get those donations in tonight. And if you did donate last month when we had to reschedule, rest assured you will be entered into this raffle. And helping make this series possible are our generous Red Bench series sponsors: silver sponsor Scholler Textile, bronze sponsor Sisler Builders, and our media sponsor Vermont Ski and Ride. A massive thank you for their support. Before we get started tonight, I want to mention 2 important fundraisers happening at the museum right now. Our Vintage Snow Sports online auction is open. We have a number of items up for bid, including collectible posters, signed artwork, wooden skis, bamboo poles, an assortment of ski memorabilia, and so much more. The auction ends on Monday, March 18th at 8 p.m., and all the proceeds benefit the museum, so please go check that out. You will also notice on our website that we're running a raffle for a pair of limited edition J skis. These skis have the Stowe map on the top sheet and can be scoped out in person at the museum. Tickets are available on our website or at the museum. This raffle runs through April 1st, and the winner will be drawn April 2nd. So someone has to win, so why not give yourself a chance? All right, so now back to why you've all tuned in. Tonight, we're joined by the father of cross-country skiing, John Caldwell. Our first conversation with John barely scratched the surface. Immediately following that event back in December, everyone wanted a part 2. So thank you, John and Peter, for making this happen. Joining John in his home is Peter Graves. Peter is a longtime museum board member with a 40-year career in the ski industry as a coach and TV and stadium announcer. He has covered 13 Olympic Games and was named to the U.S. Ski and Snowboard Hall of Fame in 21. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions at the end, so please type those into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. But if you have questions kind of throughout as we're having the discussion, feel free to type them in as we go, because Peter may be able to get to those, or they may be relevant to what they're talking about in the moment. So feel free to actually put that into the Q&A whenever you would like. And without further ado, Peter, you can take it away.
Thank you very much, Abby. It's always a great pleasure to be with Johnny, and so many people felt like we just scratched the surface on our first program. So we're really honored to have you, John. Let's get right into it. There were 2 things that you came up with, and the hike and the bike. And let's talk about those, because in the late 60s, when we did the long trail hike, this was not only very innovative, but a lot of people said, nobody's going to be able to hike that trail the way you guys did it. What are your recollections of that long trail hike?
Oh boy. Well, I didn't know how it would go. I went up and sort of ran or jogged the first 20 miles. I went up to the Canadian border and ran down. Pepper came up and picked me up. And I thought, well, 20 miles, that's most of the average that we'll need, 30. And so it's not bad. That's the only indication that I had of how we were going to do it. I was worried about injuries, number 1, people getting tired, number 2, and stuff like that. So as we went on, I kept thinking, somebody says, oh, 9 days, I kept thinking, you try 9 days in succession every day. You're supposed to be at Middlebury on day 5 and Rutland day 3 and stuff like that. Otherwise, you don't get fed. So there's no place to go, you know. And that was the amazing thing. I think that was a lot of pressure on these guys. And of course, they're all competitive. They're all, you know, here's an old 40-year-old leading the trip, and they're ashamed to quit and say they're tired. They
Yeah,
can't do
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So that was pretty good.
And part of it was not just training, but it was building an esprit de corps.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We were going up on part of Camel's Hump, and some guy grabbed a hold of a birch tree about this big around and was dead. But it was the corner, so he grabbed a hold, just put a thing and swung around. Boom, and it landed right on Tom Corbin's shoulder. And I thought, oh boy, this is something. Corbin must be tough, because he just kind of bounced up, and we kept going. But that was the only chance, the only part of an injury that we had. It was good.
Yeah. And you followed it up the next year with the bike.
The bike.
What was the concept about the bike?
The bike. Everybody loved the hike. They said, God, I've never been to never done so many training events and stuff like this. And so I said, well, we're going to try the bike. We're going to do 800 miles on the bike. And they said, oh, yeah, well, count me in. So we started down near Cambridge, near Spike Kellogg's place. And Spike was a good biker. And so we started there. But the problem with that immediately was it was a rainy day. Well, once again, we had a schedule. We had to be at Burlington on such and such a date. So here's such and such a date. We had to make the schedule. So we had Stan Swaim, a guy, good biker, good mechanic, and he came along to help teach the guys how to bike. You know, these guys are just jump on the bike and they're all crashing into each other, and it was wet as well. So we had a hard time on the first 100 miles or so.
You had some people go down in the wet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We had 3 or 4 crashes down, you know, but guys are tough. They bounced up and kept going. Amazing. You know, there again, if you got this Joe resident or Joe average guy and he got with 2 or 3 others and they crash, they'd probably call it quits. But we couldn't do that. You know, we just had to keep going.
Well, speaking of average or well below average, I know you wanted to. I had the pleasure of being on one day of that trip, and
Gravy showed up in Rutland.
In Rutland, that's right. That's right.
And he wanted to bike with you. He checked with me. I checked. Hey, can I go biking with you on, we'll say, Thursday? I said, sure, come on, bring along. And so your dad brought him up.
Yeah. That's right. And I didn't know a thing about bicycle racing, obviously.
I'm sure you didn't. Gravy got here. I told the group, hey, Graves is coming. They'll be nice to him. I didn't say be nice. I would never say that. But Gravy got here and he had this bike. It was about this tall. It was a kid's bike. And the guys just cracked up. They laughed and they wanted the bike, and they got pictures of them on the bike and all that kind of stuff. Holy cow. So that was funnier than funny.
Yeah. Well, you guys were good to me. And then of course, I don't know if you played a trick on Mike Gallagher, but Bob Gray, these guys were very good cyclists.
Oh yeah.
But I guess somewhere along the way, Mike Gallagher, did he get lost from the pack, or what happened there?
He lost. Yeah, he got lost from the back for a year and a half. So let's see, the bike was a year after the hike. All that the bikers heard about was Gallagher. Well, it's not that way in Norway. The Norwegians don't use balloon tires, you know. I mean, and these guys, the rest of the regular bikers saying, yeah, Mike, yeah, okay. forget it. But then when it came time for Gallagher to go biking, he brought his bike with balloon tires, and he jumped in with us right around a little before Rutland, I think. So he biked with a group from Rutland down to Manchester. The biking was pretty easy. And so, and the guys weren't racing, they were just plugging along. And so Gallagher could stay with the group. Then we got over on Route 30, started up towards the peak, the pass there. And then there was a luncheon spot. So we biked off there and had lunch. Everybody was all together and everything. So then the guys knew Gallagher's routine, I guess, because Gallagher would always go to the bathroom, take a huge dump right after lunch. And so the guys were all quiet and they'd made this arrangement. So Gallagher went into the outhouse. The minute that door locked, all the guys got up and walked quietly, pushing their bikes along the long inroad there to get to the place. And so once they get out on a hard top, then they formed up and started going like hell to get up away from Gallagher. Martha Rockwell was on the trip. She was a good biker, but she couldn't keep up with any of the guys. So the couple guys would ride beside Martha and have a hand there and help her up. So they got to the top of the pass and they were all together. That's fantastic. So they looked at each other and said, "We have done it." So they went down over the pass and down, and God, by this time they'd done 100, 150 or 70 miles. So they were pretty good biking together, and they just went like hell. And Gray says he remembers it going through Jamaica down at the foot of the hill, and he said the group was there and all they created was a little wind, and the wind flopped the screen doors, and those guys going through, and all they saw or heard was doors flopping, but the guys were all packed in, shoo, like this. And so poor Mike, he came out of the John. I said, "Oh, I'll take care of Mike." So Mike came out and he looked around. He said, "Where are they all? Where are they all?" I said, "Oh, they just started. Don't worry. Here, I'll help you." So I went over and fumbled around with the bike and dropped it and did everything I could. I didn't do a very good job, but it held him up another minute or two. "Here, let me get this. Okay, jump on the bike. I'll give you a start." And so we did. And Gallagher went out. He just tore up that hill, but he couldn't catch him. So there it was. And he got to the top of the hill, and too bad, because the guys were gone. But his wife, Mike's wife, Sarah, was over there with a van. And so when they got to the top, Sarah went first. She said, Mike said, "You go first and you can draft for me." And so Gallagher jumped right in behind. And so Sarah started going 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. And Mike is paddling along like crazy, keeping up with 50 miles an hour. I don't know how far they went, but I was worried about an accident. But anyway, they kept going and going, never caught the guys. And then they got down to the flat on Route 30, and there's a covered bridge across the West River. And you take that and go up a big hill, and it's close to Putney and my sauna. And that's where we were headed. Well, Gallagher didn't know the directions, or Sarah didn't know the directions. They came to the covered bridge as if it wasn't even there, and they went just right straight by it. So they went into Brattleboro, another 15 extra miles. And By the time Gallagher got up to my sauna, all the guys were there. They had a couple of beers and they were in the greatest of moods. And so Gallagher came in looking a little chagrined. What could he do? And Sarah brought in the van. The license plate had XC1 on it. Mike Elliott got a piece of tape, straight piece, put it on XC11. So
You really went after him. Oh,
they were unmerciful
Yeah.
with Gallagher.
yeah.
He deserved it.
Yeah.
So, oh gee.
How tough as nails he was,
Yeah,
for
he
sure.
was pretty tough.
Yeah.
But you can't use balloon tires and keep up with a guy with racing tires.
Right.
I mean, forget it.
Yeah.
Forget it. And these guys were good bikers. I mean, they biked, like I said, 100 miles together. So it's just no problem. That was the funniest thing that's ever happened, I think, on a big training
Yeah.
thing. Oh boy. Jeez.
I want to ask you a little bit about the era of Bill Koch and you know, being such a forerunner, taking an Olympic silver medal, the first we had ever had in '76. His doing so really was a knock on the door to the rest of the world that we could compete at that level.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. He benefited by skating. So he practiced skating. Skating was just coming in, and so he practiced skating a lot. And so in the race, he skated quite a bit, and it wasn't illegal then. So people didn't know what the hell to do about it. But there was Koki, boom, boom, and he made up a lot of time there.
And he was very one of the innovators of the skate technique, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he gave credit to some guy from Finland.
There was a Pauli Siitonen, a master skier who had done it too.
Yeah.
Around the same time.
A river race, yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, we have one question. Let's see. Delo. Oh, thank you, Barb Ackerman. Delighted to hear part of John's story. So thank you very much for that. And then Koki kind of helped bring the rest of the team along. I mean, of course, they were all individuals, but you know,
a minute.
Simino, Jim Galanis.
Koki was, he was at Putney then, and we brought him over, you know, towards the end of December. They all had project week. So my project was I took a bunch of these skiers and we went out and we did one pole, you know, one ski, two ski skate, one ski skate, and we did a double pole and we went up and down, and did a lot of experiments. Funny thing, the skating was always faster.
Yeah.
So that was nice to know that. I mean, we just verified that the skating was faster and the guys could see it. You know, they didn't have to say, So it was faster than a double pole. Yeah, so that was good.
Yeah, a great era and a great era of improvement for American
Oh
skiing.
yeah.
And really the entry, I think the first women's world championship team was 70, Vysoky Tatra, Czech.
Yeah.
So the first Olympic team would have been 72.
Yeah.
For women.
Yeah.
And Martha really was the leader of that group.
Oh yes. And Trina Hosmer was right in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was good.
Thank you.
They get along well.
Yep.
And so boy, yeah, that was a good team.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about sometimes I have the feeling that people think the World Cup for cross country has been going on for a century.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we looked it up tonight, and according to Wikipedia, the origins of the World Cup started in 1981, and you were around the scene when this was going on. What are some of your recollections? Because it was not universally wanted by every country.
Yeah, Gloria Chadwick, she saw the benefit of it, and she said, we got to vote for it because we can get these racers here, or we can go up there over Europe and see the races. And Al Merrill was following the lead of the Norwegians. Norwegians didn't like the skate, and so they voted against skating. No skating. No, it's not Norwegian. It's not the way to ski. Well, I talked with their coach, what's the name of the big fat guy that, who was the coach for Canada? And
Bjørger Pedersen.
Bjørger. And he said, don't worry, the Norwegians, they were against the duathlon, they were against the relay, they're against this, they're just against everything. Just go ahead and vote for it and get the skating in here. So that was good to hear him. But Al went with the Norwegians, and so he was going to vote against the skate. And I was chairman of the cross-country committee then. And so I called the committee together and I said, here's the situation, and we want it. And Gloria wants it, and I want it. And so we instructed Al to vote for the skating. And that we didn't give him any choice. We said, you vote when it comes time, you vote yes for skating. And so we got his vote anyway, even if the Norwegians voted against it. But yeah.
Now, getting a question from our friend Gus Williams, and he's asking, what propelled you to write your book?
The book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get to that. That was good. Sure. The book. Okay, so I got to meet Janet and Stephen Green. We were in Westover, Hepper and I was taking her out to dinner. I think it was around our wedding anniversary. I didn't have a tie. So I went to Green's and I said, hey, can I borrow a red tie or some tie? He said, oh, sure. Who are you? And I told him, Steve was very, very friendly guy. Gave me a tie. I left and we went to dinner. And I came back eventually and took the tie to him. And he said, what do you do? What are you doing here? I said, well, I'm working at Mount Snow. I'm helping with the lift. And I said, oh, yeah, good for you. So, and what's this cross-country stuff? And I told him, and I eventually, in a week or two, I gave him a complete set, skis, boots, poles, bindings. I mean, here, Steve, these are my extras. Take them away. And so he loved it. And then Janet Green is the editor of Stephen Green Press, and she made the decisions on all the new books. And so she talked to me one day. Well, we were talking sports. She was a good sports fan and I knew about all this stuff. And so she said, have you read Stephen Potter, Gamesmanship? I said, no, I don't know anything. She gave it to me and I went home, read the book, and that's a great book, and tells how to win without actually cheating and with British humor. And so I got to my typewriter and I wrote her 2 pages of a, mimic of a hotshot skier using a long pole and a ski or something like that. And I gave recommendations for it and reasons for it, and I gave it to her. Well, she read it and she liked it, and she said, did you write this? I said, oh, yeah. Well, she said, are there any books on cross country? And I said, not that I know of. She said, well, why don't you write one and I'll be the editor? I didn't, sure, okay. So that's the way it started. I started writing and she was the editor, and she's a very damn good editor. And she taught me a lot about writing and about manufacture of the books and all that kind of stuff. So that was a very, very good arrangement. She called me irate author, IA, and I called her Ed, editor. So we'd send notes to each other. It was a very good relationship. So
Well, for a lot of people, that was many people's in that era first entree into
Oh.
knowing more about cross country skiing. The book was very successful. I don't know how many printings there were, but there were many, weren't there?
seven edits, yeah.
Reprints or
Seven edits.
yeah.
And it sold, I mean, they printed 500,000 copies. So it was known as a bestseller. And she and I would talk about this. She was all the time working on putting food by. That was her big,
Mhm.
and it also sold 500,000. So we would say, hey, we're carrying the Stephen Green press. They're using, they get another book, 10,000 or something, nothing. And they weren't making any money, but on our two books,
Yeah.
there are only 500,000 books. So that was pretty good.
And then you did a Caldwell on cross country,
Yes.
which was a slightly more technical
Yes.
view of the
Yeah.
sport.
That I figure that had more good information and about training. That was the best, I think, best book I ever wrote, but didn't sell. I mean, who cares about technique? Who cares about teaching how to ski? So that's one reason we're so bad in skiing, so bad in technique. We don't pay attention to it.
Yeah. All right. From the book, I wanted to just shift back because we were talking about the World Cup. In 1978, Tony Wise, who ran the Telemark Lodge in northern Wisconsin, and was a great benefactor of U.S. cross country skiing, he hosted what I believe is considered the first unofficial World Cup. At least that's the way it's coming up in Wikipedia. What were your recollections of that? Because that was another big event for the U.S.
Yes, it was. There weren't many people here. A few Swedes came over or something, but I just remember they ran it and gave it a lot of headlines, but it wasn't a huge meet. But Allison Owen won the thing.
Yeah.
So she's listed in some places as the first winner of the World Cup.
World Cup.
Yeah, that was good.
We were talking before we went on the air, and of course the Minneapolis World Cup, as you all know, was incredibly successful. Johnny, whatever the venue is, and Minneapolis did an incredible job. We need to continue having World Cups in America, because I think the last World Cup we had prior to Minnesota, Minneapolis was in 2001 at the pre-Olympic Games. That's a long time to not have a World Cup on home soil.
Yeah, we need we need the votes, because the Europeans on the FIS, they just gang up against us, and we need to run some races in Canada so Canada and US can apply and cut the costs in half. It costs $2 million probably to get all these. What do you have to do? Get 30 men, 30 women, coaches, staff, waxers, all that kind of stuff. And that's a lot of money, a lot of transportation. And so you have to get a lot of sponsors. There's no way we could get sponsors in Putney, Vermont, or New England to run a thing like that. So,
Well, they did a terrific job out there, and
Yes.
huge crowds and great weather.
I heard that there was so much noise that the racers couldn't hear their signals. They couldn't hear how many seconds behind they were. And so Heikki Kontula, a Finnish guy, wrote me and he said, well, we had to write it on paper and show them paper as they went by.
No kidding.
How they were doing +4, -5. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Excellent.
As the sport continued to grow, we entered into at the high end the Keegan Randall era,
Yeah,
and then that led to the Jesse Diggins
sure.
era, and both of those women and all of their teammates too deserve an incredible amount of praise for finally in Pyeongchang in 2018 winning an Olympic gold medal. That was
Yeah, that was good.
that was amazing.
Our women's cross country team is the best snow team we have. Better than any snow team or this or that or double flips and downhill slalom, giant slalom. If you just look at the results, they're the best team we have, which is good, which is pretty damn good. Yeah.
And I think seeing the last few years, look at World Junior results, and then look at the men and see how like Gus Schumacher and Ben Ogden and others too. They're really coming up. I mean, the men are.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on what to account for that? Does the women's success help the men?
Oh, sure, but the men are getting good coaching, and they're good. Some of those men are good, and what can you say? It's about time. But the men's competition is always tougher than the women's, and so it's harder to get in the top 10 in the men than it is in the women. You don't need so many points with the women's. That's just the way it is, or there's not that much competition in the women. So they're going to get higher placings. But nevertheless, the women are doing great, and the men they're still pushing. Excuse me. I heard Ben Ogden was sick or had pneumonia or something, so we haven't seen him in the results for a while. I asked Sverry, I said, what's with Ogden? Well, he's sick. Yeah, so, but these other guys are doing well.
Yeah, they really are. Did you think that these results were possible at some point, Johnny? I mean, we went so long where, we were.
Koki was the only one. Yeah. Yeah, sure. I mean, Coke did it. And Tim was doing well. He quit, but there it is. Yeah, I thought they could do it.
If you look back to your era and compare it with now, is training changed a lot? It seems to me one thing they're monitoring a lot more is recovery time, where I don't think that it was greatly paid attention to in the old days.
No, we didn't train. We didn't rest much. We just went out. Well, you get a guy like Gallagher, and Gallagher would know that he's the top dog. So he could take any group of kids or anything and just hammer them and run them into the ground or something, and then go feel tough about it. That was just the wrong thing to do, but that's what happened. Oh, Jesus. Oh, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wanted to say something about the pairings of the the players are
Mhm.
guys. So there's Gallagher, he's clearly number one. Elliott's always chomping on his heels, trying to beat him. So when they have a time trial, Elliott will finish and he'll say, "What was Mike's time?" That's all. And then Gray and Gallagher, Gray and Kellogg, always, they were together, those two. And they always seesawing back and forth. Damon came in there sometime,
Mhm.
and Mattis, pretty good, but he didn't have anything special. So when, before every race, any coach will sit down with his guys and he'll say, "Who do you want me to time you on? Who do you want to be compared with?" So I did that in 66 when I was first there. And 68, we did it in 68 in France, and the East Germans were about our speed, believe this or not, 68. And so we got to 1970, the FIS and Bazoki Tatri, and so I said, "All right, I'm going to put you guys with an East German." So fine. So they're ready to go. And the first guy came by, the East German. I said, "Holy cow, he's 40 seconds ahead of where he should be. Can't believe it." All right. I said, "Maybe my watch is wrong, or I got the number wrong, or maybe I." Next guy came by, 1:10 ahead. I said, "Something funny." And the next guy came by, he was about a minute ahead. And then the fourth guy came by, and he was way ahead. So then after the race, I went to the stadium where all the waxers were in the huts, and I knew the coaches by then because I'd seen them in 66 and 68. And so in my best German, I said, was ist mit DDR?
Yeah.
So that, to a person, they all knew the guys were doping.
Mhm.
And they went like this. And I said, "Okay, that's it." Well, they were exposed maybe a year or two after that, the East Germans, but
Mhm.
so that was a little discouraging. We lose so many points just on that doping, but
Yeah.
that was it.
And they were a Soviet state, so they were following
Oh yeah,
the lead.
so the Soviets, they were obviously doping, but
So you think doping was going in your era internationally?
was it what?
Was going?
Oh,
People
sure.
were doping.
Oh,
and-
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, for sure. They, oh, yeah. Well, and I just never occurred to me to do doping. Our biggest deal was to take some instant coffee that you use for a drink, or strong coffee. So the guy would come by and give him some strong coffee. Didn't do much, but we thought it was our closest approach to doping.
Yeah.
So didn't work.
Well, we'd love your questions. If you have a question, please write in and we'll answer them. John, was there one moment in your career that stood out above all the others? You had so many rather profound experiences. I mean, but was there, I don't know if there is an answer to a question like that.
Yeah, this is kind of tough. I was never satisfied with the results because we were always, down there. One of the worst times I had was 72 in the relay, and I was all alone. I didn't have any, so I had 3 guys that weren't racing, but the relay, I sent Clark Mattis out. I said, "Hey, go down there. We're in 6th place now. Go down there and get Elliott and tell him to speed along. Get the hell in here." And so Mattis went down, but I don't know what he said, but I saw I saw about a kilometer or less than a kilometer away, Elliot got passed by a Swiss guy or something. So he was just kind of skiing. I thought, what the hell? These guys from the Midwest or West, they don't know what it is to run a relay, and you've got to go like crazy. And so this guy lost one place just because he didn't know enough to speed, or Mattis didn't give him enough credit or enough urging to.
Yeah.
That was terrible. So
Well, I mean, in so many ways, racing was still in its infancy, you know, I mean, we were learning a lot, and information at that time, as you know, was hard to get to. I mean,
yeah,
this is all pre-internet, pre-cell phone. You couldn't find out what Norwegians or Swedes were doing for training,
well,
you
yeah,
know.
well, no, but didn't matter what we did. Gallagher would come along. He I likened him to a kind of a Model T or a Model A, trying to run like a BMW. You
Mhm.
know, he would he couldn't ski uphills, and he couldn't take coaching. I tried to coach him on the uphill. Norwegians don't do it that way, and Norwegians don't do this. Norwegians don't do that. I finally got tired of it, and I said, maybe the Norwegians don't do intervals here at Thanksgiving because they can already go fast. They don't need to do that. But that was boy.
Oh, Johnny, a couple more questions coming in. Talk about the role of Hepper,
Pepper,
your wife,
Oh, boy.
because she was your greatest supporter.
I'll say, yeah, she came on some meets with us, especially when we had women going. She was great help, and then she tolerated all these sweaty bodies that would go to the sauna and would come up for dinner or something like that. She was good. She understood what was going on, and that was good.
Now, what are your thoughts about the new, shorter, multiple lap courses versus the old traditional long courses?
Well, but yeah, it's just, I don't, it's obvious, the shorter lap course is good for spectators. But when I went to Oslo in 52 with the Olympics, they had, the 50 was 2 times 25. So the guys would go out, they'd go out through the stadium, disappear. And then after a while, guys would start trickling in, go through the stadium, go out again. So you didn't see much, but there were about 2 or 3 people deep on every section of the course. And so, in fact, some people would get there the night before and put up a tent or a sleeping bag just so they could be on the thing. Well, I don't think there's that many fans anymore. So I guess you need the short laps to keep the people interested. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, sprinting is certainly
oh yeah,
a huge deal.
Yeah.
That's on short courses, and
yeah, yeah.
you know, it attracts a lot of fans.
yeah.
All right, well,
The sprint's good.
so
So
in our last couple minutes, if you want a chance to interact with Johnny, love to have you communicate with us here, and we'll talk to this legendary man who's given.
legendary.
So, well, I think so, and so do a lot of others as well.
I'm pushing 96 on. I'm really slowing down, so I forget some things now. Every day forget something. But if you ask me something about race or wax or something like that, I have pretty good memory on those things.
Yeah,
So, but it's getting more difficult.
yeah. Well, getting to be 96 years old is an enormous achievement.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, boy.
yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Any other questions for John coming up?
I was gonna say about, oh, so then I took the team to to Vasoki Tatri in 1970. So I asked one guy, like, I don't know, maybe Mattis was there. I said, who do you want to be timed with? Oh, let me know how Elliot's doing. And I said, listen, we didn't come over here to race the Americans. You're racing the rest of the world. And I thought, this is terrible. This is our attitude. And I told you last time, I think, about this guy Groningen. I was over there in 66 and I was leading the group. I said, we're going around the 15K. So here we go. I would go just as hard as I could and made a nice warm up for them. And so I'm chugging along and all the guys are in order, Gallagher and then Elliott and then Gray and Kellogg, and so I'm chugging along and then I hear Gallagher say, watch out, here comes Groningen. I pretended I didn't know Groningen, who he was. So I said, I waited a while, I timed it, and I wanted to get right close to him, to Groningen coming the wrong way. And I said, who? And Gallagher, by the time he could say Groningen, well, we were up to Groningen, and Groningen stepped out. Gallagher wanted the 6 of us to, we're going the right way. He wanted the 6 of us to get out of the track for Groningen. I said,
Who was going the wrong way?
Groningen.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I said, oh, this is really bad. So I told them, I said, listen, we're going the right way. They get the hell out of the way. I saw some woman who was dressed like she was a model. She was right out of some fancy magazine or something, had rouge and everything. I think she was from Denmark or Belgium. She was coming toward me the wrong way. I went right straight. She didn't like it. She swore at me. Too bad. Why don't you go the right way? That's, and so I told the guys, but
All right, Johnny, we got a couple more questions in the few minutes we have left. When you think back to your early days of the sport, what are the biggest technological changes you've observed?
Well, they're stronger, so they do more double pole, and they generally do more double poling because it's faster, and most of them just ski better. What the hell?
And also, of course, going from wood to fiberglass when you talk about technology.
Well, sure, the wax is faster and everything else,
Yeah. Here's another anonymous person. Maple sugaring?
Yeah, sure. But I'll tell you, this ties in with what I wanted to say. I am on a campaign. I think that lifestyle is so important for anybody, and especially for cross-country skiers. So they, if they're going out and hauling buckets through bales of snow and everything, that's good training. That's excellent. That's good strength training. And whatever they do is going to be strength or improve their overall conditioning. So I think that's very important. So homemade, what's Bowerman? Can you share your recipe for homemade you made at training camps? Oh yeah.
Yeah. Hello, Jay Bowerman.
Yeah.
Is he talking about homemade beer? Okay.
Yeah. I used sap instead of water, and everything else was the same. So the sap, a little bit of sugar, 2%, and the water would ferment and form some alcohol, and the rest of the ingredients would form some alcohol. So the sap beer was slightly stronger than the regular beer, but it also had a maple taste.
Yeah.
So it was great. That was the best beer I made.
Yeah, it was very good. Here's another one who says, what was your brightest moment in cross-country
Right.
skiing?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't have a hell of a lot of bright moments. I wasn't very good in cross country. So, you know, I beat a few guys and things like that, but it's,
Well, you're pretty humble. Here's our friend Trina Hosmer. Trina here. I wanted to say if it wasn't for HEP taking me under her wing, would never have made the 1970 FIS team. I will be forever grateful. Thank you, HEP. And that's a nice comment coming from Trina.
yeah, Trina was good.
Yeah. And she continues to have quite a distinguished master's career here
Oh,
too.
boy.
Ted Chivers writes, not a question, Johnny, but in my memory at 74, but if my memory at 74 was half of yours at 95, incredible. Great race. You've won, my friend.
Hmm.
That's nice. We talked about this a little bit, but certainly the FIS and other bodies are paying more attention to
Yeah.
doping. Do you think some teams are still doping today?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I think you can't keep up with the pharmacists. They discover stuff that maybe is not in the banned list, and so they feed it to the guys. I think the how to see it, you see some guy that has his results along like this, then suddenly, boom, suddenly improves like 2, 3, 5%, and they're probably doping.
What's your take on the situation with the World Cups? We'll talk about FIS, Belarus and Russia not being able to participate.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
They ought to. Too bad. They let some of the guys in who obviously can prove they weren't doping. But if they're in Russia and Russia's doping, throw them all out to get the information, get the pressure on the rest of the team. That's what I say.
Mm-hmm.
But the International Olympic Committee is very careful about, insulting anybody or trying to do a tough thing. The Russians have been excused time after time after
Yes.
time, and they're still doping.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, we have about another 5 minutes or so if anybody wants to get a question in, but just on a personal note, I thank you so much for what you've given the sport, what you've given me, and it's yeah, you're an amazing man. So thanks for including everybody.
Just hanging in there.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
You're doing pretty well. Okay, no more questions. I'll give you another minute or so if you want to ask Johnny a question. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up for tonight's Red Bench. But really great to talk to you and to hear more of your story.
I don't know how many meals you owe me now at
Lou's. A couple,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
we got to get to
Yeah.
Lou's again.
You can even have sausage there. Yeah, I'll buy that.
Oh boy, yeah.
Okay, well, I guess our questions are done, and it's time for us to wrap it up here. But Johnny, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your time. And
say hi, Abby.
hi, Abby. Thank you. That was great fun and really interesting. Back
Great.
to
Well,
you.
thank you both. Thank you both so much. That was fantastic. And we will have this on our YouTube page at some point next week. I know there's a lot of people that couldn't tune in tonight that really want to see this. And don't forget to check out our auction, purchase your J-Ski raffle tickets, and make your Red Bench donation for a chance to win a pair of Darn Tough snow socks. I also want to mention that we have a copy of John's book in our auction and a signed Bill Koch poster. So I would suggest just logging off of this and immediately going to our webpage and checking out our auction. And if you haven't been to the museum lately, we hope you'll visit us and check out part 1 of our Vermont's Lost Ski Areas exhibit. That's it, everybody. Have a great night. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.